rocket heater friends. We've used this stove for about a month now, and probably 98% of the time has been with the pellet hopper. And that's just because it's so convenient and so easy. We literally just fill it up, start it in the morning, and forget about it all day pretty much until it's time to shut it off at night. When we go to shut it off, it's usually 9 or 10 at night, and it has run all day, and we don't even bother touching it. We don't even bother messing with it. So it's been just a real blessing, real treat for us just to turn this on, and it just sits here and cranks out the heat. 500 degrees, 600, it'll go up to 700 degrees with pellets easily, depending on how you modulate the air. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. What I'd like to do is just show you our quick startup procedure, how we start it, what works for us, what seems to work a little faster, and then we're going to talk about how we modulate the air for control of the burn. And then later in the video, we're going to start this again in the morning, and I'm going to burn pellets all day and just see how much pellets, how many pellets, how much pellets, whatever it uses. Right now the hopper's full, and we're going to do the same thing. Now I'm going to show you the startup procedure right now just because it's so much easier in the daylight. It's afternoon, it's snowing outside, and I just got home from work. I'm going to get this started up. So first thing, we're going to clean it out. We'll just take our glass off here and put the little scraper tool all the way to the back, and you can see, if you look carefully, the ashes that are kind of blowing back up inside. That's because there was so much heat just pouring out the chimney. That's why you want to shut your flue down. Put the ash pan in place. And then look how the dust gets sucked right at the chimney. See all that dust going right past? That just shows, you know, it's the middle of the day. It's just above freezing outside, so it's not super cold. But that just shows you from the temperature gradient. There's no fire in this at all. This is cold. So this shows you the temperature gradient from the natural draft that's already going up the chimney. From the heat that's in the house, it's 70 degrees in here, 68 or so. And then it's below, you know, just above freezing outside, how much air is flowing just right out the chimney. That's why anytime your wood stove or whatever you're burning, rocket stove or whatever, you want to make sure you close it up when the fire goes out, because otherwise your heat's just pouring out your chimney. And yeah, it's a big loss. We're going to take these plugs out of the sides. I'm going to take both out just because it seems to light better and heat up faster with both side plugs out. Now I want to show you some pictures that I've taken with my camera that I put in right here where it's looking straight up with the flash on. So you'll actually be able to see the bottom of the pellet tube as it comes down in its relationship to the basket. The basket can be too far in or too far out, and let me show you examples of that.
Here we're using the phone camera, and we've set it just inside the burn chamber. We're looking straight up the pellet feed tube, and right in the foreground there is the burn basket, and you can see the vertical lines on the burn basket. There is one horizontal line, and you can see that it's not in the center of the circular shape of the bottom of the pellet feed tube. And we want that in the center, so the burn basket isn't quite far enough in. Now here's an example of the burn basket being a bit too far in. You can see the horizontal line on the burn basket. It's a little bit past center of the circular shape of the pellet feed tube. And in this final example, you can see that the horizontal crossbar of the burn basket is directly centered underneath the pellet feed tube. So this should allow for even distribution of the pellets inside the burn basket.
Now I'm going to pull this out, and I'm just going to pull it all the way out, and the pellets are going to drop in, and you're going to see a lot of them fall to the bottom there, and that's okay. Some of them fall through. They still catch on fire and still burn. Okay. Now traditionally you'll see people start their pellet stove with this, and this works well. Sometimes it seems to take a couple minutes, especially if you don't have a good quality pellet. This seems to take at least a couple minutes using this, sometimes more than that. This is MAP gas, okay? What they call MAP gas, M-A-P. This burns hotter than propane. And I don't know what the temperature differences are, but if you put the tip of the blue flame of either one, this tends to take about half the time that this does. Now, this bottle also costs twice as much. So I guess the question is time more important than money? I guess that depends on where you at in the pay cycle, in the pay week, right? But the bottom line is some people are using, fire accelerators in here, and you're not supposed to use like any accelerator, like a, petroleum product or gasoline or kerosene or that kind of thing. Some people are using a little bit of wax and a little bit of lamp oil or something like that to help get things going. I don't know, but we know that this is a safe way to do it. And let's get started here and I'll show you how long it takes. Okay, so I'm gonna start this, and we just hold the tip of the blue flame. Now, not the tip of the long blue flame, but the intense blue flame, like, it'll be about that long. We'll basically hold that right at the edge of the pellets. So it's just touching the pellets. And I'm gonna work it slowly back and forth here to try to get them red hot. Once they start carrying the flame on their own, in other words, I can, move this over here to this side, and this side still has a flame going off of it. That means that they'll probably run by themselves, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. So I don't just sitting here wasting propane. But let's get started and I'll show you what I'm doing. Probably went a little longer than I needed to there, but it seems to be carrying the flame by itself. Now let's drop this glass in so it'll start rocketing on its own. So when the glass is out, obviously air is coming in this way and down, primarily probably from this way. When we put the glass in, that blocks the airflow from here so that the air is all coming down from these holes in the top up here. Okay, they come down beside the pellet hopper feed tube and then feed the flame. So let's drop our glass in here. And you can see how much more intense the flame gets. Glass out. Watch the quality of the flame. Glass in. And there's the pellet feed tube right there. Now we're going to run this. I'm going to run this and come back in about 10 or 15 minutes, and by that time the temperature should be up to about 300. When it hits about 300, then we plug one side. We'll plug the back side. When it hits about 400 to 500, around there, then we'll plug this side, but we don't plug it with the solid plug, we plug it with this plug. Now this was just an experiment. We started drilling holes, half-inch holes, and I drilled two, only air was coming in these two holes, and the stove was sitting about 300. I drilled another hole and went up to about 350. I drilled another hole and it kind of was still about 350. So I drilled a fifth hole, and that keeps it between 4 and 450. And that's about where we like it, because that's not burning pellets at a super high rate. It's not making 700 degrees, but it's nice constant even heat for this time of year. Now if it's colder, if it's minus 10 or 20 outside and it's cold in the house, we're definitely going to probably leave this off. We're going to burn more pellets. It's going to burn pellets faster, but it's also going to make a lot more heat. It'll be in the 600 or 700 degree range there, 600 degree range with one of these off. It'll probably go up to 700 pretty easily with both of these off, because there's so much airflow, and it just makes the rocket flame even more intense. But this is good enough for this time of year. It's barely freezing outside, so we're going to come back in about 15 minutes or so, plug the one side, and then we'll come back a little while later and we'll put this in. We started to make a damper that we could adjust. We could just turn and set it to where we want it. But this seems to be working. This was cheap. These were only a few bucks a piece, like $4 or $5 a piece, these ends. And what I might end up doing is making a couple of them, one for really cold weather, one for not so cold weather, and maybe that'll work well for us. This seems to be working well for this kind of burn, about 450 degrees. Now, right now, this time of year, that's getting the house up to, here in the living room, it'll be 80 degrees or more. 78, 80, 82. We've had it up as high as 85 in January in southwest Montana in the winter. So yeah, it will definitely heat the house. So it is 300 something degrees now. Let's go ahead and put this back plug in. Now, in case some of you are wondering why our chimney pipe goes up, angles at 45 and goes out the top, it may be obvious to some, but basically this was where a wood stove sat, and this kind of smallish hearth. Of course, out of this wood stove, most wood stoves, the chimney goes straight up, right? Straight up out the top of it. Well, we couldn't set this on here because the exhaust comes out, the rocket heater out the back at the bottom, which is what you want, right? Because that traps all the heat up here. A typical wood stove, right? The heat that goes out the chimney, I mean, I've measured my chimney at the very top, and it's 400 degrees at the top. And that's a lot of heat just pouring out the top of your chimney. And of course, you're getting a lot of heat out of the wood stove, but that's a lot of heat going out the top. The purpose of the rocket heater is to trap that heat here, have much cooler air go down here, and so we're only getting like 200 degrees coming out right here, okay? And it's even way cooler up here now. Of course, that's double wall. This is all single wall right here, and it's way cooler than what would be coming out of a wood stove. So that's the purpose of that. But we thought what we do is with the wood stove is move it, or with the rocket heater is move it out here, put some bricks out here so that the chimney lined up. And then my son-in-law had the idea of we just put it over here in the middle, run the chimney pipe up, and then come over at an angle and then go out the top. Now, is a 45 degree, it's total of 90 degree bend before it goes out the top of the chimney, and of course goes straight out the top of the roof. Is that too much is what I wondered, but in reality, a lot of people have their chimneys come up, they go 90 degrees out the wall and another 90 up, out to the very top above the roof. And so that's a total of 180 degrees. This is a total of 90 degrees, 45 and 45. So I think that's still okay. What else I do like about this, that kind of keeps it centered as well. The heat coming off this hits the pipe there and helps with the draft as well. But also it's going to be much easier to clean it with this part right here, because we can always unscrew it right here with these 3 screws, back this off a little bit, get the vacuum cleaner in here and clean it out inside. And as far as the chimney sweep goes, when we sweep the chimney, all that's going to collect down here, and on the bottom of this is a round cap that we can just unscrew the 3 screws here and pop that off and be able to catch the ashes right there. So now that it's 450 on top, whew, that is hot. We're going to go ahead and put this one in. And you can listen to the change. You can listen to the change in pitch of the rocket sound. You can tell by sound it definitely slows it down. So it definitely slows down the burn. So it's not burning through pellets quite so fast. All right, and in the past we've gotten, we don't even fill this full most of the time, and we'll get 16 hours out of it, and there's still pellets in the bottom. So let's do a real test burn and actually time it and see what we get. Well, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We just got this started. It's snowing outside. It's supposed to be cloudy all day. It was 14 this morning. And it's just starting to build some heat. It builds heat pretty quickly. And the pellet hopper is full. So we're gonna see how much the pellet hopper empties by this evening when we shut it off. We'll see how many hours that is. Okay. All right. It's burning right around 400 degrees. It's been 5 hours, just over 5 hours. It's 74 in the house and 22 degrees outside. And 5 hours. That's how much of the pellet hopper's burned. Yeah, this thing's really efficient. Are y'all sleeping? So the baby chickies love this rocket heater. It's close to them, keeps them warm, and helps keep them warm. And it has literally snowed all day. The sun came out for about 5 minutes, and it was still snowing when the sun came out. So then the sun went away again. It's been cloudy all day. So we really haven't gotten any solar gain through the windows into the house. But let's check this out and see how it's doing. Okay, it's 8 o'clock at night. It's 21 degrees outside. It's 75 in the house. It's been mid-70s all day. The heater, the regular forced air propane heater, has not come on all day. And that's how much pellets have burned out of the hopper in 12 hours. And what's the temperature say there, Dawn? The flame's not real big.
It's just a little bit under 400.
Yeah, so it's been fluctuating to about there at about 450 all day. So this is awesome. 12 hours. This thing would run easy with this throttling of the intake with these 5 1/2-inch holes. This thing could run 24 hours easily on one dump of pellets. I mean, you fill this up to the top and it'll run. Wow, and we literally haven't touched it all day. We haven't done anything to it. It's just run and run and run and run. So we're going to cut it off now. It's 8 o'clock. It'll take about 45 minutes or an hour for the pellets that are left here in the tube to burn out. And it'll still make heat. We'll keep the fans on. We got this fan blowing around sort of behind, wrapping around, because we don't have a fan really tall enough to go over the top, which would be ideal for circulating air. That would be amazing. And then, of course, this fan moves a whole lot of air and shoves all the air down there to the bedrooms. Works really well, keeps them nice and warm. Okay, man, this is the best money we've ever spent on a heating source. And let me tell you guys, I wanted to buy this thing for ever since they've made their first Liberator Rocket Heater. I wanted to buy the very first one, and that was years ago. And I put this off and put this off and put this off. And I wish now I hadn't put it off. I wish now we had bought one, because this is just makes life so much better.